this one. So for beverages, you can see you're averaging probably around like somewhere between 140 to 200 calories per transaction. And then for food, you can see it's closer to like 100. So people actually, they purchase less food. But that's not exactly answering your question in the sense that I think a lot of transactions involve no food, right? So a food item probably has more calories on average than like a coffee item. But a lot of people, Starbucks, a lot of times people aren't buying any food at all. Why that's happening? So I think so there's a couple of reasons. So one question on the food, which is probably on the slide, but if it is, you'll see it again. But one question with the reduction you observe in food is how much is occurring because people just stop buying the food versus how much is occurring because they shift to like lower calorie food items, right? Because there's two reactions you could have. One is you see like, oh, normally I get a bagel, this is more calories than I thought, and so I'm just not gonna get anything at all. The other would be like, oh, normally I get a bagel, this is more calories than I thought, let me switch to some other item that like doesn't have quite as many calories. And I believe that what they find is it's more the latter than, or more the latter, so it's more that like people just aren't buying as many food items than that they are sort of switching to lower calorie food items. And you would certainly think that like so in terms of like the not buying margin, you're probably going to see more of an effect for food than for beverages, because food is sort of the optional thing. Like you get your coffee at Starbucks and they're like, oh, would you like a muffin with that or something? You usually say no, but sometimes people say yes. Whereas it's not like you're not so likely to go into Starbucks and say like, oh, I was going to get coffee, but now it has more calories than I thought, so I'm just going to leave with nothing at all. Okay, so approximately half of the reduction I guess accrues from reduction in the number of food purchased. Oh, okay, so actually it's about 50-50. I thought it was more, but so it looks like it's about half and half. So half the reduction is coming from just the reduction in the number of food items that are being purchased there, and then the other half is from switching to sort of somewhat lighter food items in terms of having less calories. They try to sort of analyze it by like location of the Starbucks, and they find that the effects seem to be somewhat stronger in higher income, more educated areas. So I guess you could have you could have like expectations that type of relationship would go either way. So on the one hand, if you're thinking, well, it's more educated people who are like really concerned about their total caloric intake, then you should maybe find a stronger effect. On the other hand, it's like, well, I think the educated people already went and like looked up online how many calories these items have, and just posting it shouldn't have any effect, and so then there'd be less of an effect. But it seems like on net that it is the more educated areas where people are responding stronger. There also they find that effects appear for Starbucks cardholders in non-New York City stores, which suggests learning rather than salient. So what this is saying is you can imagine there are two potential mechanisms by which you might be seeing these results, right? So one is we'll call learning, which is people simply didn't know how many calories were in a bagel before, and then they learn when they see it posted, and they modify their behavior. And so then if that's true, then even when they don't see it posted later on, you could still expect to see some sort of modification of behavior. And so that's what they're finding. They can actually track, like people who have like a loyalty cards, they can actually track their purchases not just in New York City stores, but also like in stores outside New York City. And so they can see that these people are basically modifying their behavior even when they visit other stores where the calories aren't posted. The other possible explanation though would have been what economists refer to as salience. So that's like, so it's not so much about learning. Like the idea is you always know the information, but unless it's kind of really presented to you in a salient manner, you don't respond to it. So if that were true, then you would expect, even when people like learn the new information, they're only going to react to it as long as it's really right in front of them at the time of purchase. So if that were true, then you would expect to see an effect in New York City stores, but not in these, not when you would not see an effect when you track these cardholders and look at their behavior in like New Jersey stores or Connecticut stores. But that's not what they find. So it really does look like it's more learning about the number of calories rather than the salience of having the number of calories presented to you at time of purchase. So overall, I think the conclusion is that the calorie posting information is unlikely to reduce obesity, but it still could be worthwhile. So they did find this effect for food purchases, and they get like this overall sort of 6% reduction in total calories purchased. But it turns out you kind of back out like how many calories people are eating at these types of restaurants, and then you say, okay, I'm going to reduce their calories by 6%. That's just not enough to actually change obesity by any meaningful measure. Like, because it works out to something like 10 calories per day or something, which in the steady state might be like 1 pound or so of weight loss, but it's not like you're going to be encouraging people to lose like 10 pounds or anything like that.
So what about like in the more educated children, like is there any indication that less educated wealthy viewers that there's less of it?
Yeah, so when I say there's a stronger effect, I mean relative to the average, and so then the other, the people who are not in that, so when the complement of the wealthy and educated areas, which will be the less educated areas, that means there must be essentially like less of an effect there. So those are the areas you probably want to target more too, right? Because statistically there's higher obesity rates. So so that in addition is kind of like undermining the hoped for effectiveness of the policy. I should say there was then a similar study that came out a little bit later of fast food restaurants, which are really what you'd like to be studying, using customer receipts, and that found no effect. So this is a much smaller data set in the sense, they're not observing the universe of McDonald's transactions or anything like the Starbucks guys were. But what they did, which was kind of amusing, is they essentially had research assistants go to various fast food restaurants in the New York and New Jersey area before and after the policy gets rolled out. And so they would approach people coming out of the restaurant and basically offer them like a couple dollars for their receipt, because they wanted to know what people were eating, but they didn't want to like stand there conducting an interview because people would probably not want to take the time to do that, and plus then you'd be concerned about reliability. But if you buy the receipt from the person, then you can know exactly what they got and presumably they ate it. So they did that, and basically what they found is that people didn't seem to be reacting in terms of like they didn't seem to be ordering different things in New York after the policy got passed than they did before. I don't remember. I think it's probably a few hundred or maybe 1,000 or so. I mean, I think it was large enough that they could rule out some pretty large effects, but you could probably not rule out like a small effect. I should also say when I went to New York, I think in like 2009 or 2010, in the year or so after the policy got passed, so I was like walking down the street and you would pass like McDonald's or something, and they'd have these big. So normally they'll have like a big sign in the window that says like 20-piece McNuggets like $4.99 or something. But then here it was like breakfast sandwich, like 530 calories, 79 cents or something like that. And I forgot that the policy had been enacted. So at first I thought it was sort of like a value proposition, like look how many calories you can buy for only like 79 cents. And then after we went home, we were like, oh wait, they have this fast food posting or calorie posting law, and so they must be forced to post not only the calories like on the menu, but also when they advertise the price in the window or something like that, they have to also post how many calories it is. So if you scale up these estimates from the paper, basically it suggests if you scale them up to apply not only to Starbucks but to other restaurants and so forth, suggests that the posting might reduce caloric intake by 30 calories a day. So that would at most maybe cause an average long-run weight loss of about 2 to 3 pounds per person. And that, of course, ignores the possibility of offsetting that we discussed before, just because you sort of get people to order less in the fast food restaurant, you don't know that their total caloric intake will fall by that much, because then they might be a little bit hungrier later on, they might order a little bit more. So it's certainly not going to be like a silver bullet that like cures the obesity epidemic or something. But in this case, I think it's very low cost, particularly since these chain restaurants have already calculated the calories anyway. The main cost is figuring out how many calories are in each of these items, but they already know that anyway because you can always get the little brochures that tell you how many calories are in it. And so you're really just talking about, well, are we going to provide more information to consumers? And usually economists say, look, if you're going to provide more information, that can't make consumers worse off because they're only more informed at that point and they show them make better choices, or at worst just make the same choices they were making before.
This is like more information study where consumers like having on them like as a more substitute as far as McDonald's increasing their healthy choices whenever you
Oh, sure.
see that difference between, I mean, I would think like you obviously have anyone else that.
Yeah, so I think they tried to look at that maybe a little bit, but they couldn't say very much about it. So to be clear, what Alexis is referring to is essentially like the supply side response to a potential demand side response, right? So the idea is you post the calories, people are like, oh wow, I always thought that the double Whopper with bacon and cheese was really healthy, but it turns out it's very high calorie, so I'm not going to order that. But then the question is, well, is there a healthier choice on the menu to order? If there's not, then like Burger King might lose a sale. So in response to consumer choice or to consumer behavior, then Burger King might say, okay, well, now we have to start offering some lower calorie items and so forth. Anecdotally, my impression is there wasn't too much of a response by the restaurants, and in particular, since on the demand side people aren't finding much of a response, then the restaurants are only going to presumably respond if they start losing sales. And if they're not really losing that many sales because people aren't changing their behavior that much, then they're unlikely to respond to that. Now, I suppose it is the case that all of this is like looking at what people do conditional on going to the restaurant. So what the restaurant really fears is they stop going altogether. So you wouldn't necessarily pick that up in these types of studies. But I don't know. I guess especially for these chain restaurants, it's like their menus are kind of determined at the national level. So I think it would be hard to like pick up an effect of Burger King rolling out like a new item just for the New York market. Even as big as New York City is, it's just still a tiny part of their overall market. And so their product portfolio probably isn't going to respond to that. Maybe once you have a national level policy, they might respond, but that would be much harder to test because they don't really have a control group.
Well, that's great because I'm not seeing calorie protein in McDonald's in places, but I've also seen them have more salads, more smoothies and shakes come out
Right.
Over the past like year. So
Sure.
I was wondering if that would be a somewhat response to it. They're using that part of the market. They're kind of like, oh, I know we had 1,000 calories in a burger.
Right. Right. So I think they are increasing their healthy choices over time. And my understanding from sort of informal discussions is that I should say McDonald's actually talked to my co-author after we published our study, but that didn't. We thought maybe at some point we would get some data from them, but that's really gone anywhere. But my understanding is that those the healthier choices probably are responses to, I don't think so much specifically to this policy, but sort of general policy concern about the role that fast food may play in the obesity epidemic. So there's not just these like calorie posting things like San Francisco outlawed meals or the toys with like Happy Meals or something unless you have like healthy options and so forth. So I think there's a lot of just sort of general policy interest that McDonald's doesn't want to have snowball into something that really like affects their business. So they are responding to that in part. But then of course the big question is just because they're offering it, are a lot of people buying it? And my sense is that it's still the actual sales are still of those types of items are still a very small percentage of their total sales. But I guess just offering it is the first step before you can go anywhere in terms of selling it. So just to wrap up here. So there's a couple other papers that kind of look at similar types or different types of policies and their potential impacts on obesity or calorie intake. So there was one that used basically used school composition as an instrument for junk food availability. So what that means is that essentially they looked at I believe it was basically looking at like sort of elementary schools versus combined middle school elementary schools. And the rationale behind that is that once you remember in your elementary school you probably didn't have any vending machines. I think most elementary schools don't. But once you get to middle school, vending machines become more common. And so their sort of research design or the natural experiment they were trying to do was to say, okay, well, then we're going to compare, say, fourth graders in like K through 5 elementary schools to fourth graders in like K through 8 elementary schools, because the ones that are going to, or not elementary schools, but combined elementary middle schools, because the ones that are going to the K through 8 schools are going to be more likely to have access to these like snack vending machines than the ones who are going to just the pure elementary school. And hopefully, like the sort of PE requirements and all of the other factors that might affect the children's obesity would be similar between these two types of schools. So when they do that, what they find is that there is a change in terms of in-school purchases. So like when the fourth graders have access to these machines, these vending machines in the K through 8 schools, they are more likely to purchase junk food and so forth, but then they don't detect any effect on BMI, on body mass index. And it seems like part of that may be because the total amount of soda and fast food, when they look just at all food intake, doesn't appear to change. So it's like, yeah, they're getting less of it in school, but then it turns out they're compensating by getting more of it like out of school or bringing it in from outside school. So again, it's like this finding that just because you shut off one channel of access doesn't mean that people are actually ultimately consuming less in total. And then there was also a paper by Jason Fletcher and some co-authors that basically does a dips and dips type analysis of these soda taxes, these state-level soda taxes that get rolled out over time. And they do find that when states increase their soda taxes, there's a modest reduction in soda consumption, as you would hope. But it seems like some of that's offset by an increase in intake of fruit juice and whole milk, both of which are also very caloric. So I mean, you could still argue that that's a win in the sense that at least with the juice, even if they're getting all the sugar, they're still getting some vitamins. So I think there was one point I remember reading like Coca-Cola was trying to defend the healthiness of Coke or something, and they're like, look, there's just as much sugar in orange juice, which is more or less true. Therefore, they're equally healthy, which is not really true because the orange juice at least has like vitamin C and potassium and folate and so forth, whereas the Coke has nothing other than carbonic acid or whatever, which helps rot your teeth as well. So and I guess some caffeine. So you wouldn't necessarily view this as having like no impact on health, but at least in terms of like trying to solve obesity, it's not really going to help because if the total amount of sugar that people are taking in is pretty much unchanged, then they're not going to really lose much weight. So that basically summarizes it. I'm just going to end with two quotes here. So it turns out, like around the time we were writing the study, restaurants were also trying to think about like, well, what happens if we downsize the portions? And then from the restaurant's perspective, actually, there are some benefits of downsizing the portions. So TGI Fridays basically tried it because what happened was their portions were so large that after people ordered entrees, they wouldn't order the desserts. So of course, you want to be able to sell them both an entree and a dessert. And then the last one, which was put in our paper, was basically McDonald's defending their healthiness by saying, look, there's nobody in McDonald's who's shoving fries into your mouth.